So what are these costs and benefits that we are referring to? So this is basically looking at the production process. If the production process domestically is cheaper than the production process internationally, then we are saying this is actually a benefit to us. We're able to produce the good for cheaper than the international firm. What a cost is when the production process domestically is more than the cost of production process internationally. And those are referred to as costs. So as long as all these benefits for when our production process is cheaper than the international firm outweighs the amount of costs in relation to the production process, then we have a scenario where we will say, okay, we can definitely enforce some form of protection for this industry. Why you want to do that? Because initially when you enter into the market, you actually have a lot of costs. Where your production process is more expensive than your international competitors. So now you have all these costs that exist, and you can't survive. But you know long term we're gonna have a lot of benefits. So then you want the support in that case. So here's the graphs relating to this information. So the curve A to A here is your domestic learner curve, or the way of looking at your average cost over time, or your average cost according to total production, accumulated total production. So you have AA here, the dark solid line. BB is the foreign firm. So what we can see is at the time that you enter into the market, their learner curve is below your learner curve, meaning they are doing a lot more better than you, and in terms of costing, the production process is cheaper than you. What is CC? CC is the production cost or the learner curve of the same company, BB. So BB is shifted upwards to CC. So this curve shift upwards to CC is including transport costs for the international firm. We have a point here, X, where the domestic curve AA cuts the curve CC. So this point X here is a vital point. It's going to show us where are the costs for this company, which is the production processes of the domestic firm being more expensive than the production processes of the international firm. And it also outlined the benefits, which are where the production processes of the domestic firm is cheaper than the international firm. So to the left of X, you can see that the AA curve or the domestic curve lies above the CC curve or the foreign curve. So these are costs over here. And to the right of X are all the benefits, because the CC curve lies above the domestic curve of AA. So those are all the benefits. So as long as all these benefits, this area between CC and AA from X, the section here, as long as all this weight of these benefits outweigh all the cost of the left of X, which is the area between AA and CC to the left of X, which is the section here, as long as the benefits outweigh the costs, then you have some argument for protecting this even industry. What must you take away from this is just the definition. It's nice to understand this curve. You can produce this curve also to argue for infant industry as like, okay, according to the Westphal definition, which says this and this and this, here's the curve. And as long as all these benefits to the right outweighs all the benefits to the left, all these benefits to the right outweighs all the costs to the left of X, then we recommend that there can be some form of protection. These is just this information on the slide is just exactly what the graph was explaining. Then we have another view. We have an Enos's view of infant industries. And he refers to this as alpha phases and beta phases. So you have a major technological changes that occur in industrialization, um, where we have the alpha phases, which is all the efforts leading to and including the introduction of the new technology. And we have the beta phase, which is just the minor technological changes to modify and adapt the product. So in essence, the alpha phase is all the processes taken to get this product ready for entering the market and to compete into the market. And the beta phase is okay, we have this product very well established. What minor tweaks do we need to do in the production process um, to better handle what we have at the moment? So what we find that in the alpha phase, in the beta phase, that all the reduction in accumulated costs is greater. But in terms of the argument of when to protect this industry, we'll protect the industry as long as it's in the alpha phases, where the initial costs are very expensive, but we will remove all the protection in the beta phase, where we find that the reduction in accumulated costs is the most. So that is what Enos is trying to put to. I prefer the wasteful definition. This alpha and beta phases is not too bad, but in both definitions, there's some threshold you have to move from. In the wasteful definition, there's this phase of X where the production process between the two is the same when taking into consideration transport costs of the foreign firm. Why do you have transport costs? Because for a foreign firm to sell in your country, they need to move the good to your country, so there's some form of transport. Okay, so those are the two definitions. What is Balassa's view? Balassa is of the view that no matter what, we should never ever have any form of protectionism. He's not a believer of protecting industry. He says, okay, he does have some exceptions to this, and he says if there's external economies of scale, and then we might be pro assisting. So what is external economies of scale? A quick Google would help you there. What is external economies of scale? Quick Google will help you there. But in essence, external economies of scale refer to events outside your firm, but within the same industry, which causes production process to become cheaper. While internal economies of scale happens within your firm. So just remember that for the future. And then based on this, if there was external economies of scale, he said you could set the tariffs between 10 and 15% maximum. He was referring in the manufacturing sector. But according to his philosophy, you should rather not have this at all if there was no external economies of scale. So he didn't buy into the idea of the learning curve, and he didn't buy into the idea that startup costs are very expensive. You need to protect themselves, protect them in these industries, the domestic firms. Although he said, okay, another exception to this thing besides external economies of scale was the idea is that if imperfect capital markets existed, or there was differences in the risk evaluation in the private sector and the social sector, then we would say, okay, we need some form of protection. So Balassa, to a degree, only was pro infant industries theory and protectionism under a set of conditions. So that is something you can bring in. You think, okay, Balassa was one of the few guys who disagreed with us, but he said, okay, if external economies of scale existed, if there was imperfect capital markets, if there was differences in risk evaluation between the private and social sector, then we would allow for protection, but only for a temporary time. So what we will find now over time if you had to go read up on that and look out for articles that were pro-infant industry, you'll find there's very little anything new currently going out there. It's also the idea of having to distinguish between individual firm protection and subsector protection. So that's important thing. Are you just protecting one industry in the whole sector, or you're looking at the whole sector and protecting them? So if you're looking from an individual firm's perspective, then you need to be able to predict the unit production time path. How is production can it change for this firm over time in terms of its cost? Then you need to be able to say, okay, these are the measures we need to be in place. These are the promotional measures that we need to have in place for a certain amount of time to help us get this production process underway. So when we talk about promotional measures, we're talking about assistance, either through tariffs being put in place to help them, or in terms of maybe even supporting them with subsidies and stuff like that, or tax reductions for them. So for individual firm, all they need to be able to say, okay, they need to be able to map out their their production costs and say, okay, according to these production costs, we need assistance during this period of time, and it needs to be sure that they stay away from something that is ongoing forever. They don't want support measures in place that is ongoing forever. So this is what perpetual means, forever and forever. And then from from an investor's type of view, they're more interested in the whole sector, not just the firm. Basically, all the firms in the sector. So when they're looking at the manufacturing subsector, um, and they are looking to invest or something like that, they want to apply the promotional measures for the whole sector. And for the same thing in here, you will find that they also have to have a specific time period and a specific level of support that they want to have in place. Otherwise, they are not looking to invest in this market. So everything here is a time frame if you have to pick up. So the main thing you need to pick up, you don't need to remember this individual side and the whole sector. The main thing you need to have in place is that the support in the infant industry sector is only for a certain amount of time. It's not ongoing forever. You can go according to the definitions. You can go to Westphal. The support is only up till the stage X, which is the separation between your benefits and costs. And obviously, you must delve a bit deeper into that discussion when you do it. Or according to INOS, it is at that point where you move from the alpha and beta phases when your protection ends. But there's some transition, anything that occurs. From an individual perspective, it's a matter of them planning their production cost process out and saying, okay, we need support from here and here. From a investor's point of view, is to say, okay, this is how much support I need, and for as long as I need for me to be interested into investing in the sector. And if this wasn't in the sector, then this promotional measures, this help, and that, then I do not want to invest. So that's also how the point is. You need these measures in place to attract investment. No investor is going to jump in the market where he's not assured that he's going to get some return. And we know in these type of sectors, most of the benefits are towards the end of the cycle, towards when production process has occurred for a long time, when you're producing for a long time. So investors don't want to sit and wait for this long lot of losses they have until they earn some profits, and the profit are quite good. They want to know, okay, right now, am I protected? So what are we going to look at now? So we're going to look at the learning curve and looking at how and why costs would reduce over time. So we established, right, that benefits are going to occur when the costs are going to be cheaper than your international firm. And we want to look at it, okay, why are these costs going to be important? Why are these costs going to be cheaper later on? And we can look at this from the learning curve perspective. We can look at it from a limited market perspective, and we can look at this in terms of externalities and development factors.